we are starting the contribution of you. Rako, please tell us more. An adventure in becoming an ILALI in representation of United States of America. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Ines, and everybody. What an honor to be here amongst this global constellation of inquiry and learning. I'm delighted to be here and have an opportunity to share a little bit. And apologize coming in a little bit late on the earlier session. I was trying to kind of get oriented a little bit. Well, my name is Mark Rako Fabionar. I go by Rako. I live in California in the United States, and I am representing an institute called ILALI, or the Innovative Learning and Living Institute. ILALI is an acronym. And our pilot program is called Wayfinders, and this is the immersive residential education program that has been inspired in part and in large part inspired by the work of Bill Dong, Lena and Thomas's book, amongst other rites of passage and extended rites of passage programs and ceremonies that have been connected to traditional and indigenous communities for centuries, right? So it's wonderful to be to speak about this a little bit. I just wanted to maybe perhaps start building upon what Manuel said around naps and rest, in the context of learning, because so much I think with the excitement of new types of learning and the need to prepare the body and the nervous system and the brain for the types of learning and unlearning that I think we're needing to address and engage our meta crisis. It's really, really good to have rest, as part of an overall orientation towards vitality and wellness, if we can. And that, I think, for educators and learners, including myself, is sometimes hard to build in or design when we get excited about all the different types of modalities and disciplines that we can draw from for the learning for our young adults and for ourselves. But the need for rest and the need for calming the nervous system and the need for healing in different ways is, I think, it's fundamental, if not foundational, for the type of project that we're exploring through Wayfinders and ILALI. So even here in the United States, there's something called a nap ministry where people promote naps, and I think it builds off this tradition of kind of the non-Western siesta and the rest and the importance of that for different reasons. Anyways, just wanted to kind of honor and build upon that thread. Let me tell you about this program, but I just give a little bit of context and history, since I know that there's the inspiration for this for many of us has come from some of Nina and Thomas's work, among others. But for me, I entered into this explicitly or specifically through an organization called the Retreat Center Collaboration, or the RCC. And the Retreat Center Collaboration is a largely North American network and organization of retreat centers that has been exploring the question of what is the future of retreat centers in this time of intensity, in this time of cultural and political polarization, in this time of economic dislocation and collapse. What's the future of retreat center from a regenerative and equity standpoint? And so I was invited into these conversations and invited into some of the leadership with this organization and this network, and really looking into how do we do transformative work, one for ourselves as professionals who are stewarding the development and the transformation of people who attend retreat centers, but then how do we do that for the future, for young adults, for particular regions? And that got the attention of a number of folks in this network, and it was further energized by the Nordic Secret, among other things that we were looking at, other bodies of work and other workshops that we were doing. And we had a foundation, the Fetzer Foundation said, hey, let's provide some seed funding to explore the development of a pilot program where we're really centering, or perhaps recentering, the renewal of civic life, the renewal of community responsibility and community and connection, and then see what we could do with the pilot program. And so that's how ILALI and Wayfinders, kind of the origin story, how it got its beginning. So I've been working on this project for the past year, and it's essentially been me, an operations director, a team of folks to help develop the curriculum, ideas for the curriculum, and working with advisors and our network of retreat center leaders. And so where we're at right now is that we're primed to pilot primed to pilot this program January of 2023. It'll go from January 2023 to through April 2023, so it's 4 months. We are framing it as a renewal of civic life, and where we're navigating the adventure of becoming. We see it as an extended rite of passage, where young people are invited into the narrative or story that young people historically, in most, if not all cultures, have been instrumental in terms of their energy, their excitement, their creativity in the different cultural trends, social movements, and their sense of what serves the common good as they understand it. That they've been instrumental in that these folks, the young folks who are invited into this in their 20s, are belong to that rich, long, cross-cultural global tradition. And we have partnered with 2 retreat centers. One is called the Whidbey Institute in Washington State. It's on an island called Whidbey Island. The Whidbey Institute has a history of a lot of inquiry and work around environmental justice, around human potential and growth and human development, among other things. And so they found that this was actually a good match for them right now in terms of what they're wanting to explore. And we'll start our program there starting in January. Well, essentially, we are wanting, obviously, to center the overall development of young adults of a given region and a given place. But we're recognizing, of course, that as we envision that if we have, one cohort and that is successful and that proves to be successful, then over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, we have cohorts, of students, of young folks from a given region who've had a shared experience, some shared language, a reorientation to themselves, to others, and nature, and are connecting with a variety of mentors and instructors, many who are from the region, but some who are also, global. And that the idea and the intent is to really serve the common or civic good of the region, but centering our efforts on young adults. And so we put together a curriculum team with backgrounds in young adult and human development, philosophy, experiential and environmental education, leadership development, somatic psychology, interdisciplinary culture studies, poetry, and performance art. So it's really integrative in terms of an offering. We see these young folks coming together at these retreat centers for 4 months to live together, learn together, work together, play together, and we're striking a balance between cohort learning, structured cohort learning in certain areas, which I'll speak to in a second, and then more self-directed learning. What as people are exposed to different ideas and practices and mentors, what is it that they feel passionate about? What is their path to follow in the context of service of the common good, right? So this kind of balancing the tension of self-directed learning and cohort-based learning. I think what's unique about this experiment, broadly defined, is that unlike some of the Nordic countries, there's quite a bit of diversity, both in terms of all the different types of identities, ethnic diversity, class diversity, and just in terms of developmental or worldview diversity that exists here. And so that really needs to inform the design. So much of what we're struggling with here in the United States, and I know it's not limited to the United States, is how polarized we are, and that can be and is exacerbated by what we're seeing on social media and the kind of the insular fiefdoms that are developed and then enacted in real life and in social structures. And so how do we really work on the polarization piece? So one of the things that's important is that we're inviting and we're outreaching to young adults in the given region who come from racial and ethnic diversity, socioeconomic diversity, and political diversity. We really want to explore working on bridging. One of the taglines for Wayfinders is belonging, bridging, and becoming. And so there's processes and frames and practices for doing that. I'll say a little bit more about the curriculum, and that we're kind of looking at three broad areas that are really integrated and build upon one another. And the first one is just broadly transformative skills. And think about it in terms of somatic, social, and emotional learning, a deepening of embodiment and the awareness of one relationship to oneself, to others, and to nature. We see this as a foundation for vitality and collective well-being. And this kind of gets to what I named, briefly, what Manuel mentioned in terms of naps, or the wisdom or the virtue of naps. And while there's going to be time to rest and be held by nature, it's really is, how do we develop practices and a rhythm and a cadence of well-being? Because so much of the challenge I think we're seeing in the West is around over intellectualization and feeling like we have to, crowd so much content into a design, whether it's a conference or a workshop or a classroom. And there's some things that actually need to be released and let go of. And the nervous system needs to calm down to really optimize a type of unlearning and embodiment that I think we're needing, let alone the type of creativity and novelty that will come from collectives. So those types of transformative skills we see as the foundation for vitality and collective well-being. And then we have practical skills, financial literacy, and exploring what's the future of currency or value. How do we really understand value in a way that includes and goes beyond just money? And how do we understand that everybody in all communities have value? How do we really redefine value exchange that's more generative? And then there's things like communication skills, facilitation skills, networking with professionals, and exploration of career, learning how to write proposals, art and creative expressions. So, these are other types of skills that for many people are, that are more practical in the sense of, how do I be able to apply some of these things to my livelihood within a modern context? So we need to have some practical skills within a modern context. Amidst these lessons and learning, there's a large focus on what we're calling worldview literacy. And essentially that's the, learning how to take, seek, and coordinate different perspectives that come from different worldviews. And we're seeing this is essential, not only in terms of understanding oneself, but understanding, what people and cultures do I have an affinity or resonance with, and which ones do I have allergies towards, or just extreme dislike. And so if we create that frame as an object in one's awareness, there's the opportunity to bridge. So worldview literacy is another key part of what we're doing, particularly around the polarization piece. And the last part, of this integrative framework and meta curriculum is stewardship and service, right? Because we're really wanting to invite a responsibility to place, a responsibility to nature. So there's at this retreat center, it's a beautiful, it's on an island. It's a beautiful retreat center. There's going to be gardening. There's going to be other kinds of land stewardship. There's going to be woodworking, community service projects, cooking and cleaning, the development of a mural, working with other community-based organizations, so that the practice of community building and relationship and communication is enacted in very real projects, and not just something that we're theorizing or learning together in a workshop. I think I'm going to stop there and see. I think that's quite a bit, and see what questions or thoughts come up for folks around this. And thank you for listening.
And thank you.
A lot of
And
words.
it was, no, it did. And thank you for bringing all this and so connected to our Global Bildung Day and the work of the members and what we want to co-create together. So thank you for bringing this to all of us. So questions from the audience. What would you like to ask? What is sparkling in your minds?
I have actually three, but they're tightly wound, so it's not like three expansive ones. Do you have a date for the second site first iteration? Is the first question.
Right now, it's tentatively dated for August 2023, and that's the Watershed Center in upstate New York. Right. We're getting clearer on the date in conversation with their executive director and the community folk there. And it's not super clear, but the relationship is formalized.
And do you have any plans for a third or other sites, or just the two?
Yeah, I think we want to see what data comes from, what information comes from running the first two. There is a lot, because of our network with the Retreat Center collaboration and actually beyond the Retreat Center collaboration as well. There's an interest because of the polarization piece largely. We really want to. We're talking with some folks who are in more conservative regions or states in the United States. The liberal states are the blue states, and the conservatives are the red states. And so we want to make sure that we're piloting this in red states or red regions to determine the efficacy of working with more conservative communities. And so, yeah, there is the intention, and we're having ongoing conversations of if this proves to be successful and attracts and draws in the types of resources that we're needing to enact this. The idea is to bring this and offer this to different regions throughout the country, and have it developed organically in relationship to the cultural wisdom and insight and needs of the community. So it's not a one size fits all. It's really, developed with the indigenous intelligences of place.
Right. And then the third one is what's your planned iteration once you're up to speed, per site? Once a year, twice a year? What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, that's the best answer. I think the hope and the intention is that it is owned by the community, by the region, and that if we do what we think we can do, that the young adults and the instructors and the community partners, will help activate and amplify the work. The rhythm or cadence of it, I think, is really going to be dependent on the particularities of the region as well as the retreat center itself in terms of their programming model and their financial models. I could tell you that the Whitby Institute is really looking at this pilot as a catalyst for a new type of identity and a new type of programming model. It's really been catalytic in some of the conversations with the board and local communities and change networks there. So the short answer would be, ideally at least once a year. But I think it's really going to be, depend on the particularities of the region and the cultures, of the places we partner with.
All right, I'm cheating. Fourth question. Do you allow visitation?
Come on. At least through Zoom. Yeah, no, I think this is the beauty of it. This is the beauty and the gift, of technology and this type of event and community building that's happening right now, is that we get to learn other people's expertise and gifts, whether that's the music from the Brazilians I didn't fully hear on the last call, but really enjoyed, or whatever type of nap ministry that Manuel and others offer that they could facilitate through Zoom. That's the advantage. And depending on the resonance, and I think there's a lot, there might be some visits and guest facilitations available to different folks. And that's, we're going to have staff there who live there specifically who facilitate, but we're also bringing in other people locally and globally.
Hello, good to see you, Rako. Thank you. It's so good to hear this update. And it's amazing. I love your curriculum and all of that. I'm also just amazed you're offering this program really free of charge. And from what I've seen, you've been able to, yeah, you're really covering all the expenses for the students, including any kind of expenses that may, how do I say, yeah, anyhow, that may be a barrier to admission or so. How do you, how is that working for you? I think last time we spoke, you were looking at local fundraising sources. Is it currently now all being funded through Fetzer? And I love your idea of bringing it to red states also in different regions of the country. Are you experiencing interest that there may be opportunities for funding through those sources also, those communities?
Yeah, I mean, our you know, we just opened up the application process, and we, you know, because we're new, we're a little bit late, you know, in opening it up, but it's opened up for young adults, and we're we're saying that it's going to be no cost, and that for some folks who need, you know, who need cost of living adjustments, there can be some stipend. I think that especially for the pilot program, that's really important to remove any barriers, you know, and let alone kind of an equity access, you know, perspective, because it is quite a commitment, you know, of time and energy for 4 months, at least within the context of the United States. We are still fundraising, definitely, and we are fundraising, you know, you know, that's the thing is like, I had a thought, and I think I won't go into that. I'll just say that we're fundraising locally, you know, in the greater Seattle, Puget Sound region, which is near the retreat center we're having it. We're fundraising. We'll start fundraising around Watershed in upstate New York, where the second pilot will be, and then we're also in conversations with donors and foundations that are more kind of more global in scope and national to fund to get the resources we need. We're not quite there yet, but I think we have a lot of good leads and a lot of good conversations. And so if you know anybody who want to continue to support this work, I do think we'll find it, but it's ongoing and it's a pilot program, and it's something that, unless you've read The Nordic Secret, there's not a lot of context for for this type of immersive work.
Yeah, no, great. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for being here with us. Really appreciate learning about what you're doing. The Bildung movement kind of builds on the Nordic folk schools. And I'm wondering how much of what you're doing is sort of based on that work or insights from that work or something like that. And then this may just have been me projecting on you as you were introducing what was going on, but I thought I heard the thread also about sort of how youth initiation rituals have kind of gone by the wayside, and adults are no longer bringing youth into adulthood. And I'm wondering if there's any thread of that in what you're doing. And then if we were to triangulate what you're creating and put it next to something else, one or two other kinds of movements or entities, what would you put on that in that space, so that I can sort of understand where you fit next to other things that are kind of similar but kind of different?
Yeah. Those are good questions. That's tightly wound questions, you know, Robert. Yeah, I think the notion of overall development and immersive learning is that's been informed by some of the findings and the framing that comes out of the Nordic Secret. That also, I think, has been deeply influenced by different stage development theories, human development theories, integrative meta theories, and so that's something that I have some background and expertise on in terms of developmental theory, particularly the application of developmental research and models within organizations and corporations. And also with youth development. So that, you know, we could talk the language of traditional, modern, postmodern, or these different stages is definitely informing it. We don't lead with that because it's not a language that I think does a lot of people a lot of good. In fact, I think using the language of stage development there usually mucks things up, quite honestly, for different reasons, unless you're talking to other developmentalists or scholars. Right. So, but it definitely informs it. And I think that's why we're centering the language around civic good and speaking about the overall development or integrative curriculum. So that's kind of so yes, definitely. The second question, yeah, you know, I think, and you might have heard me say this, is that for authentic but also political reasons in terms of how to frame this work, at least within the United States. Always talking about the Nordic secret and Western developmental models that come from Europe can be problematic within a postmodern activist culture that there's a lot of commitment to the liberation and epistemologies of communities of color and indigenous communities. And so it's important for me, which I try to do just gently, is saying, yeah, this has been informed and inspired by the ideas of the Nordic secret and the developmental models. And that's why I also said, just like other extended rites of passage that deal with psychosocial development from traditional and indigenous communities that have been happening for centuries. So that's, that's the kind of the inclusive embrace and framing that tries to navigate the postmodern left and the critique, which I think is important to do. What else would I point to? I would look at, I mean, it's not a year-long program, but kind of gap year programs. I would look at some type of outdoor education, rites of passage. I would look at work scholar programs at certain retreat centers, human potential places and centers like Esalen, but not just that. Those are kind of some of the equivalents, at least some of the lineages that inspired this.
Thank you. That was great. And I really appreciate how sensitive you are to how the way that you explain this with different audiences or in different places.
Yeah. And I'll just say last thing is that worldview literacy is a way to learn the priorities and the lenses in which stage development tries to teach. So that's some of the framing is how do we look through different worldview lenses that may or may not be connected to particular stages of development, but using it as worldview literacy has been really resonant with people, including people who are resistant to stage development theory.
What's the age range that you're working with?
Yeah, we're working with folks in their 20s. We opened it up to folks in their 20s to apply, and we want to see what the pool is like, and then because it's a pilot program, we want to make sure that there's a range of backgrounds and experiences that are represented, so that we have a good pool of folks. But right now, I mean, I think ideally we'd like anywhere between 21 and 26 or 27. But right now, for the application, we're saying anybody in their 20s can apply.
Yeah, that's an age where at least a lot of young people go into the service, the armed forces, because you get at least around the 19, 20, you get a college money after the 3-year service, and you join the service to see the world, so there's a lot of people that come from small towns that are, they get recruited, into the armed forces, because in a way they want to get out from where they are. And so there's an age bracket in there.
So more questions. I see a smile in Elizabeth. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Thank you. Hi, Rako. It's good to see you again and to hear
Hi,
more
Elizabeth.
as this amazing pilot program continues to evolve.
Good, Elizabeth.
I'm struck by your comment earlier about the cohort experience being very important, the focus on building community, bridging divides. And then you also mentioned the self-directed kind of element. And so you haven't spoken, I don't think, too much about that. I mean, I'm hearing a lot about the service and the civic orientation. Will participants have an opportunity to explore and define and kind of address in some way, shape, or form an issue of personal interest or concern? What do you think that might look like? And then also, of course, I understand the focus on the younger adult, developmental stage. And I'm curious, as you talk about the rites of passage aspect and the indigenous cultures and traditions, like, I don't know, this is just my own personal interest, kind of a new area of interest, but there's so much potential around intergenerational collaboration, like bringing older and younger generations together. I know encore.org is kind of going to be redirecting their focus onto more of that, kind of building that national movement, really. And I don't know, is that something that you've even considered? I know there's a lot of pieces here, yeah, the self-directed piece and the intergenerational thing kind of component are two questions.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Yeah, the self-directed piece. One of the things that we're going to be asking the participants to consider or hold, and once they get accepted into it, is is there a passion project that you want to explore or find support for while you're here, and and that, of course, or an inquiry, like a deep inquiry in terms of how might I serve, or what is it that I'm passionate about or want to do. And then be able to explore that with network and advisors of people from different fields, some of our curricula, some of the faculty, and then having at least 2 times a month connecting with people around, being resourced or connected to ideas or other people that can support people in their exploration of their passion. Some of it we imagine is going to come, and it's going to be totally emergent, based on a new environment and a new social field, and exploring art or exploring gardening or or exploring creating new fields, literally, or new fields or new trails, on the land. Participating in a podcast, some of the things that we want to give space where people can explore what it is that matters to them and what their creative impulse is. And so it's largely framed around a passion project, and making sure that there's conversation with on-site staff and affiliated teachers and network for them to get some support around what that looks like. The intergenerational piece, yeah, I intimated this, I think, when I described the fact that we're centering the experience on young adult development, but really wanting to capacitize a region, if our vision plays out. And this is that while the frame of belonging to, that these young folks belong to a history and a lineage or legacy of young adults who've impacted their sense or understanding of the common good, throughout history. They've done it always in relationship to elders, and always in relationship to place. And so it's part of the reframe around the self in general, but also in terms of generation. And so there are different processes. There's a person that we're talking to who has as a potential facilitator, an on-site team member who has a background in art hosting and intergenerational dialogues in terms of process. And there's several other local community-based organizations like the Partnership for Youth Empowerment that does amazing work around creative facilitation and intergenerational dialogue. And so it's definitely something that we're holding as important.